How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be creating some agar plates so we can do some time-lapse videos on that. And to do that, we're going to be using live culture from previous oyster mushrooms that I've grown. We'll also be using, obviously, agar. We're going to add some light malt extract from that and then some gypsum to stabilize the pH. I do a 10 gram agar, 10 gram malt, and a tablespoon of gypsum, and we'll be combining that with 500 milliliters of hot water. Okay, so we'll also be using a pressure canner cooker to do this, and we'll do that around 15 psi for 30 minutes to sterilize the agar to make sure it's really clean. Okay, so we're also going to be using gel food coloring for this. That'll give it a very easy way to see the mycelium grow. We will be doing a time lapse at the end of this video, so make sure you stay till the very end. Most kits will come with black, but if they don't, you can always combine purple and green together to make black. I think it just gives a really good contrast to the really fluffy white mycelium that will be growing. Okay, we're going to combine the 500 milliliters of hot water. It doesn't got to be boiling, but hot is good, with the 10 grams of agar, 10 grams of the malt, and the tablespoon of the gypsum, and we're just going to put it on a stirring plate. I like to surround my pressure canner with these jars because when we put the bottle in there, we don't want it to fall over and spill into there. It'll give you a very sticky mess that you don't want to deal with, trust me. I know by experience. And then because we like to leave our jars a little loose, we'll put our little aluminum tin can. As I said earlier, we will be pressurizing this at 15 psi and do that for about 30 minutes. So while the agar is pressure cooking for that 30 minutes, I like to get my workstation set up and just make sure everything's clean. I got the tools that I need. In this instance, we are actually using glass 120 millimeter Petri dishes that are reusable. You can get the smaller plastic disposable ones that I normally use, but I went with these for one, they're bigger, and I was hoping that that would be easier to capture the spread of the mycelium over the agar. But this is an example right here of the typical, already sterilized in like a 20 pack or something of previous agar dishes that I've created. And then as of late, I've been actually using these little serving containers for like ranch and stuff, and I've had really good success. Like I've had probably 95% sterile success with those, and they're so much cheaper than the actual sterilized petri dishes themselves. So that's been quite handy. So we took the agar out of the pressure cooker. Be very careful here. If you spin it too fast, it could bubble up. I like to release the pressure at the top a little bit to make sure that we don't have any issues while it's spinning and cooling here. And obviously, if you can see, I'm using really thick thermal gloves. I would suggest you do the same. This stuff is very hot coming out of the pressure cooker. You can see right now it's 194 degrees. It will definitely burn your hand if you don't use the proper type of gloves. So we need this to cool down. I don't like to pour it this hot because you'll get tons of condensation in the top of your jars, like a lot. That could cause issues later on because if it starts dripping down into your agar, it could start pooling. So while the agar is cooling, I like to clean up my workstation. We want it as sterile as possible while we're doing this to avoid any contaminations inside our petri dishes. So if in doubt, spray some 70% isopropyl over everything, including your hands, as often as you can. On this step, I like to wear a mask and a hat. So, and obviously if you can use a lab coat or just a clean shirt, that really makes a big difference. So we're also cleaning the outside of the dish. Anything that's been outside of our sterile environment, we want to sanitize. And I've already sanitized earlier these dishes with isopropyl, and then we'll get started here. All right, so technique is pretty key here when you're pouring. You don't really want your hands or anything else above the dish if you can absolutely help it. It'll stop from contaminations falling into it. We are using a laminar flow hood, which does definitely help, but there could be particles on our arms or shirt, or if we're leaning over it. So try to avoid that if at all possible. So we're going to do one at a time. We're going to do 5 dishes today. And these glass dishes were a little bit weird because they have really big gaps. I'm not a fan of these compared to the other ones, but again, I needed something very large so I can capture it with time lapse. And you can already see some of these are condensating a little bit. And if you accidentally forget your little stir inside here, here's a little trick to do it. But just know, I believe I did contaminate this one from doing that. Because again, you're introducing something from the outside in, even though I rubbed it with isopropyl. So just be aware of that. Again, sterile, sterile, sterile. If in doubt, clean. So right now, it's a good time to clean the outside of your agar dishes. You've been touching them, stacking them, moving them, etc. And then another technique that I've seen is to maybe put hot water on top of it. It may at least stop the top one from condensating as much. All of these really still got condensation. I pulled them out about 130 or so. And I mean, unless you go to like 120, you're going to get condensation. Some of it will dissipate when you stack them. The center ones were very good ones to use for the time lapse, so I ended up using those, where the top one you can see because it's just sitting out, there's a lot of condensation. Okay, so we're starting to get ready to make sure, for one, that our agar is set. So you can see I'm kind of moving it around, making sure there's not tons of bubbles or impurities, because if there are, it could make it very difficult to see any contamination later. So you can see I'm actually pulling a live oyster mushroom that I've grown earlier this week, and we're going to open this up, and we're going to take a live tissue sample from it and put it on the agar to start the process all over. We do this on agar to be able to see contaminations very easily. You can also do a second generation clone from these agars to make sure it's absolutely clean. Some people will go directly from fresh tissue to liquid culture, but that is risky because it's very hard to see contamination inside liquid culture, and because it's liquid, bacteria loves liquid more than mycelium does, so they have an advantage, basically, the bacteria does inside liquid culture, and it's hard to catch. So we split the mushroom directly down the center here to give us access to the very center of it where it's clean. We're trying our best not to touch it with our hands, even though we've sanitized our hands with isopropyl. Trying to keep our hands away from on top of the sample itself. Always keep it to the side, and be very careful because this scalpel is very sharp. So we get our little piece. Be very careful with it. Try not to drop it. And then we're going to do our best to not hover over the petri dish and just get the sample inside of there the best that we can. Sometimes it gets stuck, and I'll use a little edge to try to prod it. But again, anytime you hover something over these dishes, you have a chance to contaminate it. So if you could just get it on there by touching the sample, that makes it not much better. And then we are going to seal the petri dish. We actually use grafting tape for plants. It's way cheaper than the tape that laboratories use. I've had no problems with it. It seals really well. It's kind of like saran wrap, I guess, but I think it's a little bit breathable compared to like a plastic. So now that we have all of them, you see them inside our incubator here. We run our incubator at about 74 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see I have other things in here, and this is our little studio as well. And we'll go ahead and start the time lapse here. So thank you everyone for watching, and I hope you enjoy the time lapse.